Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about a subject which fits into historical utilization and cultural heritage, talking about reinventing wood for cultural conservation and climate. I will deliberately talk about this part of the world because when we talk about wood, it's different when we talk about wood in Europe. It's different when we talk about wood in North America, and it's really different when we talk about wood in South Asia and in the Himalayas. If I start with one very famous physicist of the world, in his treatise, Universe in a Nutshell, Stephen Hawking talks about what is time. He postulates and says whether time is an everlasting stream where it is really moving and bearing our dreams as it goes away. And then he also says whether it's a railroad track which is going with several loops and some branches here and there, but moving nevertheless, and yet again comes to a station which was also previously visited. And this was taken up by Charles Lamb in 19th century when he said, "Nothing puzzles me more than time and space." He said that probably time and space is also two elements which also trouble him less. Because how often do we think about time and space? Because when we talk about time and space in our planet, on our planet, it is really about wood. How often we really think about wood while growing up in the urban centers of the world? How often our younger generation really think about wood when they grow up in their childhood? I think the situation needs to be assessed. And if I may add, despite the possibilities which world has opened up for wood to become number one again, as it used to be hundreds and thousands of years back, we are lost. We are lost because we have not used the opportunity and I would say provided by demand and supply of wood, provided by climate change discussion, climate change mitigation. We have not used that. We have also not used the potential of wood being art. That's what wood was. If you go to 17th, 16th century, the art of wood was very, very famous in Europe. The most of the art actually came from wood. But where are we at the moment? Yesterday, I often heard the word wood is good. But the question is, have we done enough good to the wood? Probably not. Because the wood has really right from the beginning emerged from the forest. And we have not dealt, at least with our forests in this part of the world. Again, I'm not talking about Europe, I'm not talking about North America, I'm talking about South Asia and the Himalayas. How good we have done to our forests to say that yes, the wood is doing well. And that's where the challenge lies, ladies and gentlemen. And let me go forward. The outline of this presentation, the sequel of time and space, which I was talking about, the wood has lost its sheen, at least in our part of the world. So there's a lost glory. Can we really find it again? There is a glimmer of hope where we are working on that hope. And finally, we need neo-wood leadership, as I say in my words. Now, sequel of time and space. There's a wide cultural, historical dimension of a long time axis, the legacy of wood. There's a knowledge of science where human beings realize it is Xylem and its tachids which are part of the wood, and very, very interesting subject. It is art in the heart and soul, the finesse of human crafts with the time and space, the wood was, and it has a divine touch as well. If you come to this part of the world, that's what our friend Rajan was saying before, what holy means. Well, let's talk about the cultural and historical legacy. I'm sure you have heard a lot about that yesterday already. Now, if we go back, even we get evidences that even in the Paleolithic era, 400,000 years back, the wood was being used. Because let's not forget, we have come from the apes in the Great Rift Valley of Africa, and we have emerged from the forest, we lived from the forest, we learned from the forest, and we loved the forest. And that was due to the fact that forest was providing us the wood. And if you see these few pictures I am putting in way back in before the Christ, you must have gone through the Epic of Gilgamesh, who talks about massive set of forests being felled in the ancient Middle East for what? For everything which wood was giving us. And that epic is very, very famous, and it was followed up by other civilization called Hellenic civilization, the Greek civilization, which then whatever was left in Middle East of cedars and other tree species growing there, they used them. And you have the right hand up picture where Roman soldiers are actually also cutting forests in the nearby European forest. I think this all is known. And let's not forget the 17th and 18th century, when the industrialization phase was on its peak in Europe, where the use of wood was maximum, whether it was as energy, whether it was for our furniture, and whether it was for arts and crafts. It was being massively used, and that is what cultural and historical legacy of wood is really, to say the least. I did talk about the xylem and the tracheids. And this is very important because gradually human beings really learned that it is the wood which is giving shape to the tree, which is getting that water from the soil and then mixing it with photosynthesis at the top, so that tree really gets its shape as well as brings in sugars, which are then converted into its nutrition as well as the overall form of the tree, how we see the tree in our daily life. And these are some pictures where the human beings living and dependent on wood knew exactly which wood is good for raising the honeybees, which wood is good for making the tools which are and which were very important in the ancient times, not only to make some tools and some furniture, but also wood was everything. Wood was weapon, wood was house, wood was furniture, and wood was energy. Let me go further. The art in the heart and soul. A church in Europe full of wood, that's what human beings have been good at. They have appreciated the wood in the form of legacy, which again the sequel of time and space has created for us. Again, Niwari art here in Nepal. Finally, the heart and soul of our daily life, the music. All the instruments were really derivated during those times, and even now, from the best wood, whatever its shape, whatever its form, that was how the wood was. But let's not forget, the Asia gave something else. Iran and Indian subcontinent really gave something more to wood. It found the divine touch in wood. That's how we here in South Asia, when we want to get into divine touch, we do yagyas and we do havans, because they are larger and universal forces which only wood, while its sacrifice, can human being link to these supreme forces. And that is where the essence of wood was really found in Asia, and we have given that to the world. And let's not forget, this all was the wood I'm talking about. But ladies and gentlemen, the divine link which emerged from the learning from a forest, where the bridge between the human being to the forest was really the wood. It provided everything. Yesterday someone said here, wood was everything, wood was our learning, wood was our love, and wood was our food, as people have even eaten barks in the passage of time since the human beings have evolved, as I was saying. So this bridge, I fear, has been lost, because the wood and its glory that it accompanies us from cradle to grave, we no more believe in that. Our lives and lifestyles are too fast. We're not able to believe that we have something to do with wood. We have to do something for the wood to make it again the very, very cynosure of our development. That is not happening. Why it's not happening? I think we need to do a reflection. We are there, and it must have been really deliberated even yesterday. The onset of the industrialization, there were several substitutes. Let's not forget, I mentioned 17th and 18th century when the industrialization actually started in Europe and started spreading. And the wood became a very, very deficient item. And even in the Alps, we had deforestation, and the people then started planting forests, and people started also looking for substitute for wood. And that's where the onset of industrialization actually also gave room for other material which could really act as a substitute to wood. But let's not forget, in the current era, the favorable economics of non-wood products. Have we not heard about the tax holidays for steel? Have we not heard about tax holidays for cement industry? Yes, tax holidays, they need not to pay much. But that's not same for wood. So wood is really not able to compete in the open market against other construction materials, apart from maybe other functions these materials might have, the steel and cement. So there's a favorable economics of non-wood products. But sustainable wood production seal, yes, we are talking about FSC, Forest Stewardship Council certification. We are talking about PFC, but that certification and that seal of sustainability has not come to us in South Asia. Not many forests are certified here in South Asia where we can say these are being sustainably managed, either by communities or by the state or by the private sector. All is about making the fast buck. And let's also not forget that our forestry, which would have derived wood on a sustainable basis from the forest, is currently really linked to dragging out the dead and damaged trees out of the forest and not proactive management. So therefore, we are bound to lose against other products. Our changing lifestyles, where our young children are really raised in these cemented and asphalt organizations, institutions of our big cities, even in South Asia, even in the Himalayas, where big cities are coming up in the middle of the hills and in the middle of the mountains, the younger generation is really not into wood. And that also shows that there is an excessiveness from moderation to excessiveness and wood ignorance as well. The policy deficits, because as I mentioned, the non-wood industry is favored. Across the South Asia, across the Hindu Kush Himalaya, most of the countries have in fact banned the green felling. So you can already say we cannot really manage the forest in a proactive basis. That therefore we are heading towards plantation forestry because it's easier and it's fast-term, it's short-term based, we get immediate benefits, and we don't want to manage our natural forests and our primitive forests because that really demands a lot of art and technique of silviculture and patience, of course, to deal with that forest, to produce the wood which we want to build our future on. But also, the momentary carbon sequestration has not even helped us. If you see the discussion since the 2007, which was the golden opportunity for getting into wood again. 8 years have passed since Bali. How much have we done in the forest, in the private forest, in the tree-related forestry to bring wood again back to the fore in South Asia and in the Hindu Kush Himalayas? Really, nothing to be compared with Europe and North America. I'm falling back to them because that's where the wood is still getting a lot of attention and wood is in their culture. They have not forgotten that. That is the difference. And I think we have to live with this situation that the wood has lost its sheen. It is no more good, and we have not done good for it. But why? Why it's happening to a very, very important element which really build our future way back, even before Christ, 3rd century before Christ, which build our future, which build our kingdoms, which build our economies, and which even is building the non-wood. Now look at the sacrifice. We are using wood to produce other non-wood products, which we are using for our infrastructure, for our building manufacture, and other uses. So that is the wood. Our respected secretary yesterday said, wood, yes, wood is good, but he said, jungle is mangal. I go one step forward, I say, jungle is dangle, because the most of the wrestling which is happening between stakeholders is in and around the forest, where the wood comes from. So I think this is something paradox. And let's go here. Here, the Yashagumba hunters at the elevation of 3,000 and above meters, still looking for wood and taking out the wood from all the shrubby vegetation which is there and using that while Yashagumba or caterpillar mushroom is harvested, and the biggest damage to such ecosystems which produce wood is given. Well, that's not all. We are running into forest which produces our wood, full throttle. Yes, the argument might be, again, actually the production of wood has shifted towards plantation forestry. Yes, everybody agrees. The production of wood has been taken over by the private sector, by fast-growing species. We know that. But we also know that that is not going to solve our climate problem. We really need to manage our natural forests, our native forests, on a sustainable basis, because that's where the largest carbon pool is, above ground and below ground. But we've not been able to do that, because our natural forests are giving picture as you are seeing on the screen. Everything is running full throttle, whether that's grazing, whether that's forest fire, and whether that's conversion of natural forests into plantation forestry or even to agriculture. Talking about shifting cultivation, for example. But that's not all. I mentioned there are tax holidays for construction industry, infrastructure. That is what it is all about. The bigger it is, the better it is. That's where we are all heading to. The colossal substitute, our buildings which are coming up, they don't need wood. They really don't need wood. Well, we have the glimmer of hope. The scientific analysis, wood is carbon, historical literature and oral history rediscovered, forgotten knowledge and skills, safeguard existing knowledge. Has climate argument won the game for wood? Actually, not yet. Ecosystem services focus, yes, ecosystem services are important, but you will agree that the focus has gone more to wood, but it has been taken over by food, water, and energy. We don't talk about wood much. We talk about ecosystem services where water security, food security, and energy security is really essential. Rural economy and livelihoods argument. Yes, there's a glimmer of hope, we can build on that, and proactive forest management. Well, important thing would be to build on stakeholdership. In a way, COP 2007 has come calling as big opportunity to gain attention for wood. It has built a global recognition, and many stakeholders are coming together to really work in the forest, to really work for the forest, and see how we can fix also wood for a longer period of time to address the climate change. But yes, there are good practices as well where we can learn from. This is Bavarian touch. That is one of the states in Germany which is doing economically fantastic job, but it has not forgotten the wood culture. And that is how it communicates to public, to policymakers, the right-hand side picture, what forest is delivering, what wood is delivering in this state. How much it means to climate change, how much it means to the labor force, how much it means to the people as inner consciousness, and how much it means to the networking between the cooperatives and improving their knowledge and communication. This is how you can sell wood, as Bavaria is doing in southern part of Germany. Potential in future. The picture on the left-hand side, the highest building of wood in Melbourne, and the bigger one is coming in US. But also, small is beautiful. Small houses are possible. You can build them. On the left-hand side, the electronic gadgets which have overtaken our life and daily life, we can still think about wood. These are the last 3 slides, and please bear with me because I was given half an hour and I'm coming to end. The neo-wood leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, if you talk about Hindu Kush Himalayas, only Bhutan has in its GDP about 10% share of forestry into GDP. Only Bhutan has 10% share of its trade through forestry, through wood. None of the other countries of Hindu Kush Himalayas can actually match with that. If you see the GDP, if you see also the national budgets, the focus on wood and forestry is very limited. You will find 3 or 4% mostly in the budget. So you can imagine that we are not actually focusing on the wood. So therefore, let me go further. Let me talk about a very, very important challenge we all have to face. And that challenge is we need creative and inspirational leadership. I talk 2 things here. One of the inspirational leaders in the world was John F. Kennedy. When the Kennedy was given this question, why do you want to go to moon? He said, we are not going to moon just for fun. Because we are going to moon because I want to challenge ourselves how better we can organize our collective knowledge and skills to reach moon. And he gave them 10 years. He said, it's a hard job, but we will do it collectively. And that is where the inspiration must come from. The wood needs that inspiration. Wood needs also mindfulness. Are we creative enough? If you go through the book by David George Haskell, he talks about a mandala in the forest where he lays a sample plot, he calls it mandala. For 1 year, he observed that forest in the Northern America, somewhere. And he said, are we able to convey to our younger generation, how does wood really matter in a forest? Just imagine a tree is an organic engine. It's an organic engine because it's the xylem which is sucking the water from the soil through surface tension, sucked also by the photosynthesis for power and force from the top, and actually producing the wood and making the tree to deliver the wood. I think how often we create a kind of a creative art to tell our younger children, this is what a forest is doing for you. It is actually an organic engine for which, if you have to raise the millions of gallons of water from the soil, you will need solar pumps. You will need diesel pumps to get that diesel up to the tree to produce wood. But the nature is doing free of cost. And that is wood, what wood is doing. That passion must come to really bring us forward. So therefore, building on xylem mindfulness, as I say, it pivots on the task at hand. We need to really revive the wood culture. We need a diverse team of interest groups where hybridization of partners, I say the steel industry and wood, can come together. We have to be proactive on that. And use and products out of the wood need much more innovation in producing those items which can find market on the sustainable. And individual interests where setting the enabling conditions are very, very important. So this is my last message. We need policies that support non-wood industries. We need to revisit it. We need forest sector policy and private forests and trees policy where we have enough wood on a sustainable basis. Wood production from certified sustainable forest ecosystem and chain of custody, I think that is the need of the hour. We must demonstrate, only then we can produce more wood, because we need an argument, because often the younger generation thinks the moment they see a tree coming from the forest, they think it has been illegally felled or it has been felled and the nature has been harmed. That is not the case. We have to make a case for this younger generation because youth matters for future. Infrastructure, technologies, and the treatments of the wood to last longer. Build on rural avenues of economy, standardize skill development enterprises at the rural level. That's where we can regenerate the wood for its creative arts and crafts potential. mass awareness package based on data and best practices as from Bavaria, industry, private sector, youth, architects, they should all come together. And disaster management. Again, we talk about bamboo housing. But what are we doing at the end of the day? How much are we doing? The earthquake is a very live example last year here in Nepal. How much have we since then done for promoting wood at the highest level? And enabling conditions and norms for, again, reviving that art, our daily modern life, which is full of extravagant lifestyles. How can we bring wood back to our culture? That is somewhere we have to look, and we have to use the three levels: the operative level, where the wood and its potential can be created; maneuverability, where we can show that the warmth of wood, that wood is the warmest product which you can have from the nature; and strategic level, then to really trigger the minds of our policymakers to really think about wood. And that should be the vision and entitlement for the future generation. Thank you very much for your kind attention.